At the beginning of the drama, we see the male lead, Zhao Si, who is hiking on vacation. Then he receives a call from Lin, his assistant. He says, "Your meeting is tomorrow," and Zhao Si replies, "I will come." He then hears a goat and starts to look for it. He finds an injured goat and places his hand on its forehead. Then it starts to rain heavily. Next, we see the female lead, Shilan, a doctor, examining a patient. She tells him, "Stay away from wine." After the checkup, she receives a call from her mother, who asks about her work. She says, "I am very happy here." Her mother then says, "Make friends with the seniors." She replies, "They are already such good friends that they make me do all the work." Then her mother asks, "When are you coming home and when will you introduce me to your boyfriend?" She says, "When I come home next time, I will definitely introduce you to him." Now she sees the goats outside, but one goat is missing, so she starts looking for it. At night, a man brings an injured goat. She asks him, "Do you need any help?" Then she takes him to the clinic and asks, "How many goats have you stolen before today?" He says, "I didn't steal it, it's a child. This goat is more expensive than my clothes." Shilan thanks him and then asks him to apply medicine to his injury. He says, "My leg is injured." She says, "Director Ma'am will apply medicine to your leg injury." He says, "She is playing cards outside. How will she treat me?" Shilan says, "If you want good treatment, you have to pay for it." He reaches into his pocket, but he has no money. So he agrees to treatment from Director Ma'am. After a while, she comes and checks him and says, "Lie down on the bed." Then she says, "Are you laughing at your treatment?" He gets nervous and says, "Please leave it. I will go to Lal and get an x-ray done." But the small emergency light goes out. So Shilan lights a candle. Now Director Ma'am applies a needle to his wound, and after a while, his leg is healed. Now Shilan gives him the bill. He says, "I forgot my bill at home, but I promise I will send you the money as soon as I go to the city, and I will send the CT scan here." Director Ma'am is happy. Now he asks her for her phone, but the phone is dead because of the power cut. Now Director Ma'am tells him to change his clothes. "You will get the flu in these clothes." On the other hand, Shilan, while preparing dinner, says, "He seems like a fraud to me, and he won't even know about a CT scan. He also stole our goat." But Uncle says, "That's not true. He seems to be from a good family, and he didn't steal our goat." After that, Shilan says, "Doesn't his face seem similar to someone else?" Now they both go to a board outside the village, where there was a picture of a man who sold fake wine. She says, "The villagers say this wine seller exaggerates everything. This man looks like him to me." Now, returning, she gives him some clothes and says, "Take a shower." After a while, he comes out after showering, and they start to have dinner. He starts eating chicken, and Shilan says, "You can't afford this." Zhao says, "I will pay you. Just let me eat now on credit." She gets up, brings a copy, and starts writing the bill. After dinner, she shows him a paper. "You have to sign this." He signs it and asks, "Where do I sleep?" Shilan takes him to a room with chairs and many mosquitoes. He says, "I can't sleep here." She says, "There is no other room for you to sleep in, so you will have to sleep here." Now she sees an insect on his shoulder. Zhao gets scared seeing the insect. Shilan says, "You are scared of a small insect?" He says, "I'm not scared. It looked like a big mosquito, so I was removing it." Now Shilan scares him with more insects. He climbs onto a chair. He then says, "How can you scare me like this?" She says, "This is a mountainous area. Such animals and insects come here." A friend of mine says he was sleeping at night and a big bedbug went into his ear, but he doesn't need to be scared. It doesn't go into everyone's ear. So you go to sleep. Then she leaves. As soon as she goes to her room, he comes after her and requests, "Let me sleep in your room." "I can't sleep in this room. I will pay you for it." She initially refuses, then lets him into her room. He asks her, "Are you angry with me because of the goat?" "I'm sorry." Shilan says, "That's not the case." Then she brings a bottle of wine. He says, "I know you're a salesperson, but what's the meaning of your anger?" She says, "I don't like people who deceive and boast." Then she pushes him, causing him to fall onto a bookshelf, and the books fall down. A photo falls out of one book. He asks, "Is this boy your boyfriend?" She takes the picture and tears it up, saying, "All my personal things are in this room, so don't touch them." And then she says, "Tomorrow morning we will go to your car." The next morning they go to his car, but it's not there. She says, "How is this possible? Your car was here yesterday and today it has gone underground." He says, "That's possible too." Now he asks her, "Is there any way to leave from here?" He calls his assistant. "He will also bring your money and we will also get you to the city." She says, "Considering the condition of the road, do you think anyone can come?" He says, "It's very important for me to reach because I have a meeting." He names a hospital. She says, "Is he a doctor there?" He says, "No." She says, "Then who is he meeting?" Now he tells her the truth. "I am the president of that hospital." Hearing this, Shilan starts smiling. In the next scene, we see the meeting scene at the hospital. Everyone there is asking about Zhao, so his assistant says he must be stuck in traffic and goes outside to try to call Zhao. On the other hand, Zhao is looking for signals in the village. Shilan talks to some engineers about this and they say the tower has fallen and they are going to fix it. Now she takes Zhao's phone and says, "Didn't you hear that the tower is broken?" But he says, "I have to get to the hospital somehow." She says, "The road you see, he can go by that, and there's no need to pay his fees either." Now she starts leaving. So Zhao also comes after her and says, "You won't believe that I am the president of the hospital." Now at the hospital, the assistant tells everyone that he can't contact Zhao, so a senior asks to cancel the meeting. Then, both of them go home. Jason asks, "Did he find his car?" Shilan says he's the president and tells him to leave the house. When Jason and the senior director are shocked, they ask Shilan, and she says he himself says that he is the director of that hospital. Now the senior director congratulates him. "You became president at such a young age?" Shilan throws her raincoat at him and starts fighting with him. Jason and the senior director stop her. Then an old lady comes and asks, "What's happening here?" Shilan points towards Zhao and says to the woman, "Isn't he the one who sells wine?" The woman says, "Yes, he is." In the next scene, Shilan treats the old lady and sends her away. Zhao is sitting outside sadly. Now Shilan sits with the senior director and Jason, bringing food. They both tell her to invite Zhao for lunch too. Shilan goes to him and asks him, "Is he really the president of that hospital?" But Zhao doesn't answer. She says, "I know you are a big liar." She says, "I know this because I am a physician at that hospital." Hearing this, Zhao stands up from his chair and asks her, "Are you really a physician at that hospital? Then what are you doing here?" Shilan says, "You are the president of the hospital. How don't you know that Angsing Hospital has a project going on? That's why he came here." He says, "If someone is a doctor at Angsing Hospital, then they will know the address of that hospital." But Shilan doesn't answer this and tells him to have lunch and leaves. He says, "I don't eat leftover food." Now she is cleaning because there is a smell of something from this clinic room. She goes to see and finds Zhao eating her cup noodles. She says, "How can you eat this without my permission? This was my last one." He says, "These are very tasty, and write down the bill also. I will give you the money soon." Now she gives him her diary and pen and asks him to write down his bill himself. Zhao looks at the diary and sees the senior director's order and asks her about it. She says the senior director knows how to lift the decision of the junior, so she had taken the order. Then she asks him to write his bill and makes him write 10 cups of noodles instead of 1 cup of noodles. Just then, Jason comes and asks for cup noodles. She says he had the last one, which Zhao ate. Now Zhao sees the bill, in which he has written 10 cups of noodles. Jason says he has become too greedy. She says, "He is not going to give me this, it's money." Then she tells him to leave. Jason says, "The road is still closed, so where will he go?" And there's no use writing the bill, she'll give him some work. Shilan gets an idea, and she tells him to feed the goats. When he does this, she also asks him to clean their mess. "If you don't do this, you won't get food." Then she gives him a mask and makes him work. After eating, he comes to sleep in Shilan's room and knocks on the door. He says, "I will do anything for her, but I will not sleep in her room." She says, "You go sleep with the chickens or the goats." After some time, she opens the window and sees him sleeping outside. She thinks, why is he sleeping outside? It's cold outside. If he doesn't leave from here, he will catch a cold. Then he gets up and says, "If you let me sleep in your room today as well, I will give you this much fee." She says, if he wants to sleep in her room, he will have to make a promise. In the next scene, she comes to wake Zhao up. He comes from behind her. She asks, "Did you finish all the work?" He says yes and then says, "Director ma'am is hungry." Now she tells him to have lunch. While having lunch, he asks Shilan, "Wasn't your project for 3 months? Why aren't they calling you back? Now it's been 6 months. If you tell me, I will help you." She tells him, "Stop calling yourself director." Now Jason and Director Ma'am say, "We never tried to ask him about this because he had done this in Angsing Hospital." Then she says, in that hospital, a mother appears with her child. She goes through the orders again after a few days, and the mother is still sitting near the orders. She asks her, "I've been seeing you here for many days. Did you get your child checked up?" She says, "I got it checked by many doctors. Everyone said to give up hope. I came here for treatment too." Shilan says, "There may be less chance of your child surviving." She says, "Even if there is a 1% chance of my child surviving, I will try for him." Now she takes the patient's file to a senior doctor and says, "I know that the chances of this child surviving are low, but please give him a chance." Now, hearing her, he says to admit the child. After the surgery, the child doesn't survive, due to which she is sent to this village as punishment. Zhao asks, "Do you regret what you did?" She says, "Yes." He says, "Someone had to come forward to help that lady." She says, "I feel good, but no one can change the truth." She tells him to wash the dishes properly and starts to leave. Now she washes the dishes and he goes to fulfill his promise, in which Shilan makes a video of him and makes him promise that he will not sell fake medicines or wine from today. If he does so, she will upload this video and also inform the police. After that, she tells him to find a good job and leaves. At night, she secretly comes to drink wine. Zhao stops her and says, "Director ma'am just took a bottle of wine and she told me not to tell anyone about this. But if you still want to drink wine, you can." Saying this, he starts to leave. Shilan stops him and asks, "Where are you going? I don't know what her fake wine is made of, but Director ma'am makes this wine with a special material. So if you want to try it, you can." He asks her, "You are not angry with me now?" She says, "Everyone makes mistakes, and we should learn from our mistakes." Now Shilan also serves him wine. He asks her, "Do you drink like this every day?" She says, "Not every day. When my mood is bad, then I drink." Zhao asks, "Is your mood bad because you are not able to go to Angsing Hospital?" She says, "I send my work report every month and my grades are also good." Zhao says, "Your life is also quite good. Helping people is also good." She says, "I know that, and that's why I came here. But I want to do more in life, so I can't stay here forever. If the director of Angsing Hospital gets angry with me, it will be very bad." Zhao says, "Why do you think negatively? You will definitely go back to the hospital one day." Now Zhao asks, "Why aren't you applying for a job in another hospital instead of leaving that hospital?" She says, "Angsing Hospital's salary is good. After working there for 3 years, you can also get a loan to buy your own house. It's my dream to have my own house, so I can't leave Angsing Hospital." After drinking, Shilan brings Zhao to the room and then checks her phone. Her mother had called and messaged her. She calls her mother and makes an excuse. "My phone was broken." Her mother says, "If you didn't call today, I would have come to you in the morning." She didn't know that today was her father's death anniversary. She had gone to his grave and prayed for him. Shilan cries, "What's the use of prayer now? When he was alive, he never cared about me." Her mother says, "Don't blame your dad." Then her mother asks her to send her a picture of her boyfriend. After the call ends, she thinks, "Why did I lie to my mother? Where will she get a boyfriend from now?" Then she remembers Zhao. She checks if he is still drunk and then apologizes to him. Then she takes photos with him. The first time, the photo doesn't come out well, then the second time, she hugs him and takes a photo. Zhao becomes fully conscious, but then faints and falls on her. She holds him and takes many photos, and then sends a voice message to her mother. These are photos from a few days ago when he fell asleep after coming from the office. Her mother replies, "They both look like a good couple, and I'm no longer worried because of you." Shilan thinks to herself, "What's the use of looking good? He sells fake wine." After that, she puts him to sleep on the bed and lies down on the chair herself, thinking about her father. "He once gave me a teddy bear and said that next time he would bring me a bigger one than this." Shilan says, "Mom says we shouldn't take unimportant things right now. Our house is very small, and we need a lot of money to buy a new house." She lovingly explains that they will work harder, and next year they will be in their own house, which will also have her separate room. So she gets this promise from her dad. Now, in the present, we see Shilan sleeping hugging the teddy bear given by her father. Next morning, Zhao wakes up and Jason says good morning to him. Jason tells him, "Shilan made soup to cure your hangover." He checks the breakfast, then he hears the phone ringing. Next, when Shilan comes to work, she learns that Zhao has already left. Jason says once the road was cleared, he had to leave. Now she leaves from there, sadly. In the next scene, Zhao is going to the hospital in the city. He tells his assistant to get Shilan's details. Now he goes to the hospital and sees the card of the same doctor that Shilan had told him about. Now he stops her and introduces himself. "I am the new president of the hospital, Zhao." He shakes hands with Zhao. In the next scene, Shilan was checking a patient in the village. Then she gets a call. Jason asks, "What happened? Why are you so worried?" She says, "A lot of stuff has arrived for him." Now they check the stuff and talk among themselves. "How did you misunderstand Zhao as the fake medicine seller?" Jason asks, "Is he really the president of the hospital?" She says, "I just checked the hospital's website and the old president is still shown there." After that, Shilan receives an email to come back to the hospital. She reads it and becomes very happy. He says to her, "Relax, I'm not going to do anything to you." He asks her to drink tea. Shilan remembers how he treated me when he was in the village. She starts to apologize, but he says, "You don't need to apologize. What you did was perfectly right." Now Zhao gives her money as a settlement, but Shilan refuses to take it. He says, "I promised this, so you have to take this money." Then he makes her count the money and tells her to go to her work. She says, "Our village matter is over here, right?" He says, "Only the money settlement is clear, the personal settlement is still pending, and that will also be cleared soon." She goes outside and starts banging her head against the wall, thinking, "Why can I be so unlucky?" Then Zhao comes there and asks, "What are you doing here?" Seeing him, she runs away. In the next scene, Shilan tells her friend, Zhao is the hospital president. Her friend smiles broadly, saying, hearing this, I thought the president was quite interesting. Shilan asks, how is he interesting? He deliberately gave the money so that I would realize my mistake. Her friend says, don't think too much about him. He was just having fun scaring you. He also behaved badly with you in the village. She says, I took his photo and sent it to my mother. This is my boyfriend, because my mother was after me. And when Zhao came to know about this, things got messed up. Her friend asks, why did you do that? If you had told me, I would have photoshopped it. She says, I was drunk and I didn't understand anything. That's why I will tell him everything now. But her friend stops her from doing so, saying, if you keep avoiding him, this lie of yours won't be revealed. So she tells her to take leave tomorrow. She says, there's a program tomorrow for which there will be no work at the hospital. He will go there. Next day, Shilan comes to the office, and seeing Zhao, she hides. She checks, has he gone or not? After he leaves, she turns on the elevator, but seeing Zhao there, she is shocked. Then she says good morning to him and stands there. She says to him, you forgot to press the elevator button. He says, I didn't forget, I was waiting for you. Now she presses the elevator button. He says, the hospital needs a lot of improvement, so if you have any suggestions, be sure to email me. After a while, the elevator opens, and Shilan leaves from there. In the next scene, the program scene is shown, where some doctors talk, seeing Shilan. She had an affair with a doctor from the hospital, and after the breakup, she went to this village. Then Zhao arrives there. Now an experiment takes place. Zhao sits on the sofa next to Shilan, and then the experiment starts. Now the other two members give up, but Zhao wins the competition. Everyone claps for Zhao. He is so strong. Now Shilan brings water for Zhao and says, when he was in the village, he was afraid of pain, so he didn't need to take this challenge. He says, there's nothing like that. I don't think I did anything great. Shilan says, for a husband, enduring the pain of his wife's delivery is a very big thing. Even though it was a challenge, he proved that he is different from others. After the event ends, he books a table at a restaurant and asks his teammates about Shilan. They say, she wasn't feeling well, so she left early. In the next scene, Shilan is walking on the road when Zhao arrives in his car and asks her, where do you live? She gives him the address and he asks her to get in the car. Shilan is about to sit in the back, but Zhao says, I am not a driver. So she sits in the front, and then they both start to go together. On the way, he sees a half-eaten burger in Shilan's hand and asks her, why didn't you go to dinner with your doctors? She says, I wasn't hungry, so I didn't go. Then Zhao catches her lie and asks, aren't you very close to them? She says nothing, so Zhao tells her to eat the burger. She says, is there a problem with the smell of the burger in the car? He says, the smell of that chicken burger reminds me of cleaning her chicken patties in the village. She made me do that work, which led to my new beginning. Now Shilan apologizes again and he says, you don't need to apologize, but it will always be remembered. After that, Shilan receives a message from her friend. I took a day off, but I couldn't write anything and my chips are also finished, so I have to go to the supermarket now. She says, I'm coming in 15 minutes, so come down. Then she sends her an emoji and silences her phone, and she apologizes to Zhao. He asks her, is she your friend? She says, yes. He says, don't you have a friendship with your doctors? Otherwise you would have known that the hospital president is going to change. She says, it's not necessary that I have a friendship with the doctors. I'm not even in their chat groups. He asks her, why aren't you in the chat groups? She says, people always gossip in it, which spoils my mood. Now she tells Zhao to stop the car in front of a supermarket and gets out of the car and goes with her friend. Further ahead, Zhao sees that Shilan has left her bag in the car. On the other hand, Shilan and her friend are shopping at the supermarket. She tells her about Zhao. I thought of avoiding him, but I had to stay with him all day. Even now, he dropped me here. Her friend says, if I had a boss like that, I would make him my boyfriend. If the person is good, why hide him? You should meet that man openly. She tells her to be quiet. Her friend asks, are you still in love with your ex? Telling her to be quiet, she says, he is a very difficult person. Now Zhao comes in front of them and gives Shilan the bag, saying, you left your bag in the difficult person's car. Shilan is shocked to see this and nervously takes the bag. Zhao takes the bag towards himself, saying, does my face look like the difficult person's face to you? Shilan becomes embarrassed. She says to him, whatever he says, his account is still pending. Saying this, he leaves. After he leaves, her friend says to Shilan, your president is very handsome. She would even give her life for such a guy. In the next scene, a colleague of Shilan goes to Shilan and asks, are you doing Dr. Gao's work? She says, yes. He says, if he had done this earlier, he wouldn't have had to stay in the village. She says, are you understanding me or taunting me? He says, it's good for her to move on quickly, forgetting the old things. She says, don't worry. In the next scene, Shilan and her friend are shown together, both wearing face masks. Shilan says, after the market incident, Zhao has stopped bothering her. Her friend says, that means there's a change in him, and such a change only comes when there is love. Shilan tells her not to talk about it. Zhao is good, but we can't be in a relationship. I still have to buy a house. In the next scene, Shilan gives all the work to Dr. Gao. He gives her more work. She asks him, when will I get the shift? He says, finish this first, then I'll get you the shift. Zhao listens to all their conversation from outside and then comes inside. Shilan starts to leave. Zhao stops her. Dr. Gao is having trouble with the shift right now. Become my assistant. Dr. Gao says, she hasn't done assistant work. Zhao says, she can try. She says, I will wait for the shift. Zhao tells her to wait outside. Now Shilan goes outside and thinks, what does he want to do after all? Zhao asks Dr. Gao, if Shilan becomes his assistant, will there be any problem? He says, no, it will make my work easier. Now Zhao goes to his office and starts working. Shilan comes to him and apologizes to Zhao because she had spoken badly about him to her friend. He says, you've already apologized for this. Are you finding it difficult to become my assistant? You just have to follow the orders. I saw you in the village. You are perfect for this job. She says, I'm fine as a doctor. Zhao says, what do you think? When will Dr. Gao give you a shift? He probably won't give you a shift ever. It was better in the village. You were quite happy there. You don't look happy here. He says, I need a temporary assistant right now. My assistant is on leave, and Zhao gives her time to think. She says, I will give you the answer today itself. After that, she goes for lunch, and on her way back, she finds a poster of a house. Seeing this, she thinks, if I have to buy a house, I have to do something. In the next scene, Shilan is tossing up the assistant's job, but she is not able to confirm anything. In the next scene, she receives a message from her friend, who invites her to eat burgers with her, so she says yes. Now there, her friend says to her, there must be some reason behind Zhao wanting to make you his assistant. She replies, that's why I can't decide, but I'm not getting a shift either. Her friend asks, why don't you want to become Zhao's assistant? You don't have a shift. She says, the doctor is saying he will give me a shift soon. Her friend replies, it may take 3 to 4 months for you to get a shift. Are you thinking about shifting to another hospital? She says, I can't shift to another hospital. I have to buy a house. Her friend says, then by becoming Zhao's assistant, you can get a shift. She says, but there is some reason behind making her his assistant. He might take revenge on me. Her friend replies, that won't happen. If he does that, he will feel guilty. After that, we see Zhao swimming. He has kept his phone aside. Shilan calls his assistant and asks about Zhao. He says, if it's business, you can tell me. Shilan replies, it's a little business related and a little personal. I will talk to him myself. She asks, where is the president right now? He says, he's at home. Shilan waits outside his house with an umbrella. On the other hand, as soon as Zhao checks his phone after swimming, he finds messages from his assistant, so he calls him. He says, Shilan called me and identified you. She wants to meet you for some urgent work and is waiting outside your house. Shilan was waiting for Zhao. A fast bike passes by her, causing her umbrella to fall. Then Zhao arrives there and goes to her with the umbrella. Then he takes her inside the house because she got a little hurt from the bike. He brings coffee for her and asks her, how did you know that I live here? She says, I found out all this from the clinic's profile. Now Zhao brings ointment for her and applies it to her injury. After that, Shilan says, I am ready to become your assistant. He says, did you come here at this late hour just to say this? She says, you told me to give you the answer today, so I came to talk about this. He says, you have kept your promise well. Have you thought carefully about becoming an assistant? She says, you said that your account is still pending, so do you want to take revenge on me by making me your assistant? Hearing this, Zhao is shocked. She says, I behaved badly with you in the village, so I know you hate me. You can vent your anger on me whenever you want. He says, how can I take such revenge on a girl? Then he assures her, I won't be angry with you for what happened in the village. After that, Shilan shakes hands with Zhao to take up the assistant's job and leaves. Going outside, she calls her friend and says, I have told him everything I thought about the president, and now I feel good. Next day, she comes to the hospital after getting ready. Zhao's assistant gives her a card and some necessary items and says, since you came early, relax a little. President Zhao will be here shortly. Now, Shilan goes to Zhao's office and sees that the office is a little dirty, so she starts cleaning. Then Zhao comes there. She says, I didn't remove anything from the desk. I just cleaned the room. He says, you did a good job, and tells her to close the window curtains. You have to keep the curtains half open, otherwise the light falls directly on my face. He says, you spilled water while watering the plant. Shilan cleans the floor and says she will take care of these things in the future. After that, the assistant brings some files and says, your job is to take care of Zhao's daily matters. All his work is written in these files. He keeps updating these files daily, so you will also have to keep updating them. He tells her to read these files carefully. Then he gives her some more files. These are important contacts. If the president goes to an event and doesn't meet those people, you have to update them. Shilan asks, can I save these contacts on my phone? He says, you can't carry all these files together, so you have to save them on your phone. And you have to be careful because there might be a problem with your phone too. He gives Zhao's example. Once he went on an office fishing trip, but due to some problems, he was stuck there for 3 days. Now Zhao looks at his assistant. Zhao says, that's enough information for today. He gives him a pen drive and says, get a printout of this. Then he also says, as soon as I come to the office, I need hot water and coffee at 10 o'clock. Shilan prints the document and places it on the outside desk and continues working. Zhao was bored inside, so he goes to her. She asks, did you need something? Zhao raises his hand like he did in the village and says, I'm not keeping an eye on you because I know you're not lazy. Then he gives her a box of tea and says, my assistant gave this. I don't drink it, so you can keep it, and then leaves. After putting away the tea, Shilan goes to get some things from her old desk. While packing her things, her pen falls down. As she is picking it up, a colleague comes there and starts talking about Shilan becoming Zhao's assistant. Next scene. Shilan receives a call from Zhao. He says, I have a program planned for tonight. Come down. I'm coming to pick you up. So she goes downstairs and starts waiting for him. Meanwhile, her colleagues also come out because of the end of working hours and see that Shilan is going somewhere with the president. Now Zhao and Shilan come to a restaurant for dinner. Shilan says, this restaurant is quite expensive too. Zhao says, it's cheaper than the village chicken. She says, I will pay you for that chicken. He says, why do you think I need money? Shilan says, then we'll split the dinner bill. Zhao says, I was saying that I will give you cash. She is about to go to the ATM to withdraw money. He stops her and says, I was joking. Our order is ready. It must be coming. After a while, both of them have dinner. He praises her work and says, you shouldn't think that I'm doing all this for you. It's your personality. She says, I still don't understand why you gave me the assistant's job. He says, I think you are perfect for anxiety hospital. You are very good at taking care of patients, but now your work is for the hospital. The hospital needs a lot of change and I need your help in this. Next, she is going home in Zhao's car. She says, Doctor, Gao also gets his personal work done by other workers. They want to complain about him, but they are afraid of him. Zhao says, why are all the employees afraid of Dr. Gao? She says, the salary and promotions of all the employees are in his hands, so no one wants to complain against him. He says, he's even more dangerous than me. She says, he is quite different from you. He just keeps giving us orders and tells us all to eat together because he thinks it builds bonding. Zhao says, don't you like eating with the team? She says, sometimes it's okay, but he wants it to be like this every day. Because of this, we have to cancel our plans. Look, we also have personal lives and we don't even get overtime pay for our work. Zhao says, now I understand why she's not happy even after coming back. She says, what difference does it make for us employees? Work is everything. He says, you were quite happy in the village. She says, life there was very simple. We just focused on our work, got a little bonus and salary, but there is more to life than that. So I couldn't stay there forever. He says, yes, you also have to buy a house. She says, how do you know about this? He says, you told me this while drunk that night. She says, that night, you also drank. He says, but I drank less. Now Zhao stops his car outside Shilan's house and gets out to give her 2 bags, packets, and bottles, which he had promised her in the village. She says, I can't eat so much alone. He says, you don't need to eat it quickly. It's fresh and will expire after 1.5 years. Giving her both bags, he says, our village account is now settled. He says, I've noticed that you always think negatively. In the village too, you misunderstood me. And here too, you kept misunderstanding me. You thought I was going to take revenge on you. Now he tells her to think positively and leaves. After that, Shilan goes to her room and her friend is looking at photos of all those cup noodles. Next scene, Shilan tells her friend everything. She says, Zhao asked me what's wrong in the hospital so that he can fix it. Her friend says, what's the matter today that you are praising your president? She says, there's nothing like that, I'm just admiring him. Her friend says, are you hungry? Would you like to eat too? She says, my stomach is full, I had a very good dinner. With Zhao too. Then her friend says, I thought the president wanted to take revenge on you, but now it seems something else. Shilan says, I want to help Zhao become a good president. Now her friend says, I read the story of the little prince, in which a fox got all his work done from a prince, and then slowly over time he started to like him. In the end, they formed a lovely bond. Shilan tells her to come out of her dream world and says, if a boy and a girl are working together, it doesn't mean they are in love with each other. Next day, Shilan puts flowers in the office. Then Zhao enters and says, good morning. He asks her, do you like flowers? She says, I ordered them online to save money. After that, she is taking Zhao's glass. Zhao asks her, do you have Dr. Gao's new book? Then he asked her to bring a copy of the book. She goes to the doctor to get the book. Dr. Gao signs the book and gives it to her. Next scene. Dr. Gao comes to the president's office. Shilan goes to make coffee for them. Zhao is reading his book. Dr. Gao says, I didn't think you were interested in medical books. He says, it's a very good book. How do you manage to write so much despite being so busy? Dr. Gao says, I write all this to advance medical knowledge. Now Zhao asks him the reason for coming. Dr. Gao says, my assistant told me some things, so I will follow them. Zhao says, that's good, but I've learned that you get the material for your book from your team. Is this true? Shilan was making tea there and listening to their entire conversation. Dr. Gao says, I didn't give it to them. They asked for it themselves because they wanted to help me and they also learned a lot from it. Zhao says, I heard something else. Just then, Shilan brings and places the tea. Now Dr. Gao tells Shilan to tell everything. You helped me, and you learned a lot from it. Shilan gets a little nervous and doesn't say anything. Zhao says, maybe Shilan is scared of your words. He says, Shilan told me all this. Now Dr. Gao is shocked by that. Now Zhao says, now I will fix everything. You don't need to worry. Shilan, angry at his words, leaves. After Dr. Gao leaves, Zhao tells Shilan to light scented candles in her room. Shilan says yes and starts to go. Then Zhao says, what happened? You don't seem to be in a good mood? She says, why did you tell Dr. Gao? You said it would stay between us. He says, you didn't see how they were lying. When asked, they should have admitted it or clearly denied it. Therefore, I had to tell. He says, you also want this problem solved as soon as possible. So if someone won't admit their mistake, how will it be fixed? Next scene. Shilan arrives at Zhao's house, then receives a call from her friend. She says, Zhao trapped me today. Now, Doctor Gao will be very angry with me. If I had known this beforehand, I wouldn't have come from the village. She says, Zhao is so clever that I have to think before saying anything. Now a lady inside hears all her conversation. Shilan ends the call. The lady asks, are you Zhao's cook? She says, yes, I came here to cook. Now Shilan lights the candles and helps the lady cook. The lady says, don't worry. I won't tell Zhao what you were saying outside. I also get angry at Zhao sometimes, so I can understand your feelings. She asks, have you been working for this family for a long time? Then she says, I have seen Zhao grow up and raised him like my own child. He studied abroad for many years and then came here and became busy with work. I heard you talking. It means he is still the same. Now she asks her about her family. Shilan says, my dad is not there. My mom and stepfather sell vegetables in the market. Now the lady offers Shilan some fruits to eat. Shilan says, I don't know Zhao that well, so if there is a problem, will he help me? Then the lady gives Shilan her number and says, if there is any problem, contact me. Now, leaving, she tells Shilan, Zhao is not a bad person. Then she says, I know, just there was some misunderstanding regarding work. Now going outside, she tells Zhao, I have cleaned and also lit the candles. She says, Auntie is cooking, so can I go home? After this, she goes home on her bicycle. Next scene. When Zhao comes home, he is shocked to see the lady because she is his mom. Now Zhao and his mom eat together. His mom says, when she came, she was speaking ill of you. If I had told her that I am your mom, she would have cried out of fear. Now his mom asks, why did you make her your assistant only for work? Then he says, I just admire her character. His mom says, love starts like this. You don't need to marry a rich girl. You should marry the girl you like. Next scene. Shilan is in the office. Then she receives a call that a parcel has arrived for her. She sees that her friend has sent her a parcel of chocolate milk. Now Zhao sees her and comes to her. Shilan is shocked to see him, and her parcel falls. Now when they pick it up, it turns out to be wasted. Zhao gets it cleaned. After that, they go together in the lift. Zhao asks, what did you order? Then she says, there was no need. It was my mistake. He asks her, are you still angry about yesterday's matter? She replies, no. Then, when they arrive at the office, Zhao says, what you just ordered? You should drink it now too. After that, he and his assistant are talking. Shilan comes there with a milkshake. So Zhao, seeing her, says, I know why you ordered this drink. Shilan replies, I know why. You wanted to give me a milkshake, but you ordered one for yourself. Then she leaves from there. After she leaves, the assistant asks, why are you keeping such a distance from her? Did she take your name in front of the director? Zhao replies, so what else could I do? Even if she hadn't mentioned the name, the director would have found out anyway. Next scene, Zhao comes to Shilan and says, if you want to eat something, you can order. Otherwise, I can treat you. Now he takes her to her favorite place for lunch. Then he tells her, Doctor, Gao has withdrawn the work he had given to his workers. The credit goes to you. Shilan replies, I don't want any such credit. Zhao asks, why are you so scared of Dr. Gao? She says, I know he wants to improve the hospital, but I can't take everyone's responsibility. Now Zhao was thinking that he would stand by the truth. He tells her, I thought you consider me your friend. Don't you consider me your friend? Shilan replies, I am senior to you, so how can I consider you my friend? Zhao says, if you considered me senior, you wouldn't talk to me like this. After that, they finish lunch and go outside. Shilan says, whatever happens, they will call you president. Just then, a girl selling flowers comes there and asks them to buy flowers. The girl says, both of you look good together. Zhao says, she is not my girlfriend because she doesn't consider me as one of her own. Shilan angrily says, why are you talking like this? At the same time, Shilan's ex comes there with his girlfriend. The girl asks them to buy flowers too. Shilan tells Zhao to leave from there. Zhao goes a little ahead, calls the flower girl, buys all the flowers from her, and gives them to Shilan. Shilan asks in surprise, why did you do this? Zhao replies, I took all her flowers so that she would go home quickly. She says, she still won't go home because she still has many flowers. Zhao asks, how do you know? Shilan says with a slight smile, I also used to sell flowers during college time to meet my expenses. Next scene, at night, Shilan comes to her room with those flowers. Her friend asks, why didn't you put these beautiful flowers in your hospital? Shilan replies, many people come and go in the president's room in the hospital. If I have roses on my table every day, it will look strange. Her friend questions, did Zhao give you flowers without any reason? Shilan says thoughtfully, Zhao seemed different today. After that, she goes there to change. Next scene, she arranges the flowers in the office and sits outside at her desk. Then she receives a call from her mother. Mother says, our relative's daughter is unwell, so they are going to the emergency room of Angsing Hospital. Shilan quickly asks, are they coming to my hospital? Mother replies, they are going to another branch of Angsing Hospital. Don't worry, focus on your work. After that, Zhao comes out and says, Shilan, bring my parcel from downstairs. She goes down and takes a parcel on which it is written, this is for you. Next scene, Shilan receives a message from downstairs saying, your mom is here. Downstairs, the receptionist asks her to wait and informs her, your assistant, Shilan, has arrived. Hearing this, she is shocked. Why did she call Shilan an assistant? She steps back, but she is not in the doctor's position. She says, she has now become the president's assistant. So she says, how can she take an assistant job when she is a doctor? Just then, Dr. Gao is talking to someone nearby. The receptionist calls him over and tells him, this is Shilan's mom. She tells Shilan's mom, whatever you want to ask, you can ask the doctor. The doctor says, Shilan has been temporarily appointed as an assistant. She will soon be asked to rejoin as a doctor. Shilan's mom thanks him and gives him homegrown walnuts as a gift, which the doctor hands over to the receptionist to keep. We will share these among ourselves. Here we see Shilan and Zhao in the office. Shilan asks him, can I go home? I have some work to do. Zhao replies, I will also go downstairs. As they go down, Shilan remembers the picture she sent to her mom. When they were in the village, Shilan had sent a picture of Zhao to her mom. Because of this, she starts to panic and stops Zhao from going downstairs, saying, we can work a little more. To this, he says, I have to go out for work. After that, they take the elevator down. Shilan tells him, there will be a lot of traffic on the way, so you should use the washroom here. But he refuses and leaves. As soon as he leaves, Shilan goes to her mom and asks her, why have you come here? Her mom replies, I was nearby, so I thought I would meet you. She tells her, today I will stay with you. Now they both start heading to Shilan's home. Her mom says, your hospital is quite big and all the doctors are good. I also met Dr. Gao. He was saying, Shilan has become an assistant. She will soon return to her position. After this, her mom asks, have you told your boyfriend that I am here? She replies, he has gone on a business trip for a few days. Hearing this, her mom says, then I won't be able to meet him. After this, she asks for his name and Shilan tells her. Next scene, Shilan has dinner with her mom. Her mom asks her friend, is he a writer? She replies, yes. Then her mom asks her friend, have you seen Shilan's boyfriend? She replies, Shilan's boyfriend is very handsome. Would you like to meet him? Mom says, he has gone on a business trip. So her friend jokingly tells Shilan, why don't you call him back from the trip? Shilan kicks her under the table and says, how can he come back from a business trip? After this, her mom starts cleaning up, but Shilan asks her not to and says, you should rest. She puts the broom aside, sits next to Shilan and asks, how is your work going? Do you need money? She replies, no. Her mom asks, then why do you have so many cup noodles? She says, someone gifted them to me and I haven't eaten them yet. Her mom says, I thought you had started some side business. After this, she looks at her phone and sees that the walnuts her mom gave to Dr. Gao have been distributed among everyone. She says, you can meet him tomorrow and apologize. The next day, Shilan arranges fresh flowers in the office. Zhao asks, which flowers are these? She replies, these are English flowers and symbolize friendship. He says, these flowers are nice too. Shilan, feeling sad, thanks him. After this, Zhao asks her, are you feeling okay? If you want to take a leave, you can. She replies, I'm fine. He asks her about lunch, and she says, I have plans for lunch with my friend. After this, we see them having lunch with her friend. There, she asks her friend, if you apologize to Dr. Gao, will the other doctors judge you? She replies, other workers also have complaints about him, so I don't think they will judge you. On the other hand, all the doctors are having a meal with Dr. Gao. He says, I have posted about my new book today. Did anyone read it? Now, he warns the others, this is very important, so everyone takes out their phones to check. Now, Zhao is also listening to their conversation through a microphone. He thinks, this doctor is worse than I imagined. Now, Shilan also comes there to apologize to Dr. Gao, and Zhao is shocked to see her. He rushes towards her because he knows that Dr. Gao will be angry and insult her. Now, Shilan apologizes to Dr. Gao and, feeling embarrassed, starts drinking. Zhao arrives and takes the drink from her hand, then gets angry at Dr. Gao, saying, how can you treat your juniors like this? How can you stop them from eating? Dr. Gao gets angry at Shilan, saying, this is your trick. You sent Shilan here to find out about my conversations. She says, I came here to apologize. Zhao tells her to stay quiet and then says, I were the one who told Shilan to come here. After hearing Zhao's words, Shilan angrily walks out. Zhao follows her, but she stops him, saying, you should not follow me, because she was very upset. Zhao steps in front of her and says, the Shilan I know was never like this. She always stood for the truth and never backed down. She replies, the Shilan I know is someone else. This Shilan needs to survive and buy her own house. That's why she needs this job and cannot afford to upset Dr. Gao. Zhao holds her and says, don't you consider me a friend? No matter what happens, I will always stand by you. After this, Shilan calms down a little and says, I need to go home now. Zhao takes her home. Now, she asks Zhao to stop at a medical store and buys ointment for him. Zhao sits on a chair. Looking at him, Shilan thinks, someone once said that in love, a person can do anything. After this, she applies ointment on Zhao's foot, where he had a bruise. Zhao apologizes to her and says, I should have told you everything before doing this. If you don't want to continue as my assistant, you can return to your department. But Shilan says, I will leave only after completing my work as your assistant. Meanwhile, Shilan's mom also arrives there. She tries to stop her from seeing Zhao, but her mom notices them and says she said that her boyfriend was on a tour. Now, Shilan signals Zhao not to say anything, so Zhao remains silent and leaves. After reaching home, Shilan calls him and talks about telling the truth. He says, I will meet you soon and listen to everything. In the next scene, Zhao suspends Dr. Gao from his position as director, and all the doctors are forced to support him. After this, Shilan comes to Zhao's office and asks him to go for lunch. During lunch, Shilan talks about sending a picture of her village to his mother. Zhao asks her for the photo, so she sends it to him and says, when I opened my eyes, I was scared. Zhao smiles slightly and says, you thought of me as a medicine and wine seller. Even then, why did you send my photo to your mom? She says, if there had been another option, I wouldn't have done this. Zhao gets angry at this. Then, praising him, she asks him to come to dinner with her mom tomorrow. He refuses. Now, coming outside, she again asks him to come to dinner, but Zhao refuses again this time. Shilan starts to leave. Then Zhao says, you gave up so easily. After that, she takes him to a flower shop and, buying flowers for Zhao, gives them to him saying, this is my final sorry. Zhao takes the flower and says, if you want me to go to dinner with you, you have to do one thing. After that, she goes to the office and makes him record a video in which Zhao acts as her boyfriend, willingly. After deleting the recording, Shilan asks him, didn't you trust me enough that you made me record a video? He says, in today's times, there is no trust. Everything should have proof. Next scene. Shilan tells her friend about Zhao coming to dinner, so she starts making things up. You both have definitely fallen in love. Shilan says, it's a formal dinner. Zhao also tells his mom, I want to be friends with Shilan. She says, if you love her, tell her. He says, nothing like that, but you will tell her the truth about yourself. She says, I will tell her only when you both fall in love. Next scene. Zhao selects a dress to go to dinner, but he doesn't like any. On the other hand, Shilan and her mom are waiting for Zhao. Shilan calls Zhao so he comes in his car. He's wearing nice clothes. She is shocked to see him because he has done exactly the opposite of what she explained. Now they are going to the restaurant for dinner. Shilan's mom asks Zhao to order. Just then, Zhao receives a message from Shilan. She tells him, we have to follow the plan. But Zhao, doing the opposite, orders delicious dishes. He takes great care of her mom. Then Shilan messages him, you destroyed my whole plan. Seeing the message, Zhao remembers that Shilan had asked to go home immediately after dinner. So he, doing the opposite again, asks his mom to go for a walk in a park after dinner. Then he goes to pay the dinner bill. Then mom tells him, Zhao is a very good boy. He's very lucky to have you as a boyfriend. Shilan, pretending to go to the washroom, goes behind Zhao and says, what happened to our plan? why aren't you working according to the plan? Zhao explains to her, I didn't do that because mom would say that my taste is not good, and if she's a good person, why would I ruin my image for this? Saying this, he leaves from there. After that, Shilan and her mom were walking with Zhao. Her mom goes to the washroom for a while. Shilan tells him, if you don't behave well with my mom, I will break up right now. But I didn't do that. She says, we have to continue this act for a few more days. Zhao agrees. I can do that much for you. Then she says, have you fallen in love with me? Otherwise, why are you doing all this for me? Then her mom also arrives. Next scene, Zhao is with Shilan's mother. Zhao asks Shilan, why did you decide to become a doctor? Shilan replies, I didn't think about it much. Jobs are readily available in this field, so I decided to become a doctor. Her mother says, you were very fond of painting in your childhood, but you gave up painting because you became a doctor. After this, they start walking again. Shilan's mother asks for the phone to take a picture of them both, but Shilan makes an excuse, saying, my battery is low. Zhao gives his phone, and her mother starts taking pictures of them both. After a while, Shilan's mother gets a call, so both of them remove their hands. Some children are playing there, and their football is about to hit Shilan, but Zhao pulls her towards him so the football hits him, and they accidentally kiss. Seeing this, her mother quickly takes their picture. After this, Zhao takes them both away from there. On the way, Shilan asks her mother, why did you take my kissing photo? Her mother replies, it happened by mistake. After this, Shilan deletes that photo. A little later, Zhao stops at a gas station. Shilan also goes to the washroom. Her mother tells Zhao, earlier, I was worried about Shilan, but now I have no worries. Zhao asks, what is the reason? She replies, our financial situation was not good, which is why her father committed suicide. Zhao feels very bad after hearing this. Next scene, Shilan tells Zhao, send me my pictures. When Zhao looks at the pictures, he doesn't find the kissing photo. He says, I have handled everything well. Shilan smiles and shows her pictures to her friend. Her friend sees that the kissing photo is not there, so she asks, why didn't you keep the kissing photo? Shilan replies, I deleted that photo. When the friend asks, why did you do that? Then Shilan says, I didn't think there was any benefit in keeping that photo. On the other hand, Zhao deletes those pictures, but after a while, he recovers them. In this process, he also finds the kissing photo that Shilan had deleted. Next day, Shilan drops her mother off and leaves for the office, taking a bouquet of flowers with her. Reaching the office, she arranges them. Then Zhao comes there and asks, these flowers, for what? Shilan says, just, they are beautiful. Zhao tells her about the kissing photo and says, I deleted that photo. Shilan says, that photo was accidentally deleted. Zhao says, I found that deleted photo. Hearing this, Shilan becomes a little sad and goes and sits at her desk. Zhao sends her the kissing photo and says, today you can take me to lunch. Next scene, Zhao asks both his assistant and Shilan to go for lunch, but his assistant refuses. Then Zhao and Shilan go for lunch. During lunch, Shilan asks, why did your assistant refuse? Zhao says, he's like that, and he thinks of us as lovers. Shilan says, don't tell the assistant this. Then Zhao says, send your mother our pictures. We were going to break up anyway, but your mother will get a little happiness. Shilan says, my mother might get worried. Zhao replies, I don't care, just give her this kind of treat. After this, both of them take a picture of themselves and send it to Shilan's mother. After lunch, Zhao asks, what plan are you making to tell your mother about the breakup? After this, both of them start thinking about it. When Zhao reaches the office, he sees his father there. His dad talks about a documentary. Afterwards, Zhao and Shilan are out for a walk, and Shilan asks him about his dad. He says, he thinks I'm not capable of being president. Now, listening to Zhao, Shilan also remembers her dad. Then Zhao starts thinking about what his mom said. He tells her, don't hide your feelings from your friends. You can seek help from your fellow doctors whenever you want. If you want to help, you should also know how to get help. Next scene, Shilan has come to Zhao's house. Then Zhao's mom talks to her. I am Zhao's mom. She talks about their relationship with Zhao. She says, you are not on their level. Just then, Zhao's message comes, I have to go to buy a gift. Now she goes to a mall with Zhao. Now, under the pretext of buying a gift for his mom, he gets Shilan to select a necklace. After that, they both go for lunch. She says to him, I met your mom today, and she told me many secrets about you. Then they roam around the mall, and Zhao gets her to select a dress. She tries on the dress but doesn't buy it. On the way home, Zhao asks her, why didn't you buy that dress? She says, I don't want to waste money right now and I need to get my own house, so I didn't buy that dress. Now Zhao goes home and has tea and talks with Shilan. Next day, Zhao's childhood friend comes to the office to meet him and hugs him, which makes Shilan jealous. Next scene, Shilan has come to Zhao's house to light candles. Zhao's friend also comes there and starts talking to Zhao's mom about Zhao's childhood. Seeing them talk, Shilan, again feeling jealous, leaves from there. At night, Zhao tells his mom that he likes Shilan. Then his mom says, I also want to see you both together. He asks, when my friend came here, was Shilan jealous seeing her? Then his mom says, I didn't notice that. Next scene, Zhao takes Shilan to teach her driving. Then Shilan shows him her house, and during dinner she tells him her dad's secret. He took out a loan and worked on a project, but it wasn't completed. So he didn't have the courage to repay the loan and complete the project, so he committed suicide. She says, I want to fulfill my dad's dream. Then Zhao tells her, you will surely fulfill this dream. After dinner, Zhao, while washing dishes, tells her, my mom's birthday is in 2 days, so will you become my girlfriend and surprise my mom? She says, why don't you take your friend for this? Just then, while working, Shilan gets hurt on her head, so Zhao starts looking at her and then kisses her. Next day in the office, Shilan tells Zhao to forget last night's kiss as a mistake and starts working at her desk. Just then, Zhao's friend comes there, so Zhao tells her, I like Shilan, and then asks her to act to make Shilan jealous. They are going for lunch. He asks Shilan to come along, but she refuses. A little later, Zhao comes back and tells her, my mom's birthday is coming up and I want you to buy the dress you selected. Shilan brings that dress from the mall, then Zhao asks her to bring that dress to the swimming pool. He was planning a drama for her. When Shilan arrives there, he starts having fun with his friend. Seeing both of them together, Shilan gets angry and returns the dress without saying anything. Next day, Zhao asks Shilan to bring a cake for his mom. She says, why aren't you going with your girlfriend? And then starts to leave. Zhao plays her video and says, if you don't stay with me, I will send this video to my mom. Then Shilan agrees. After that, Zhao gives her the same dress he had asked her to buy. She changes into the dress and comes to Zhao. After that, both of them go to Zhao's mom's birthday. Zhao's dad also likes Shilan very much. She makes a cake for Zhao's mom by hand. Then Zhao also helps her. Seeing them together, Zhao's parents are very happy. After dinner, Zhao was going to drop Shilan home when he confesses his love for her. Hearing this, Shilan starts blushing. Then, controlling her emotions, she asks, so what were you doing with your date? He says, I was having fun with her to make you jealous. Now she gets out of the car a little ahead and then tells him, I also like you. Zhao is very happy and starts kissing her, but Shilan stops him and says, do you really like me? Because there's a lot of difference between us. He says, I started liking you from the village itself. After returning from there, you also appeared in my dreams, but I realized it later. Now he starts kissing her again. Shilan stops him again and says, at first I didn't like you at all, but working with you, I understood you and you don't seem so bad. Now Zhao gives her a bouquet and says, no hurry. When you are ready for this relationship, let me know. Then he tells her to go. So Shilan kisses him. Then Zhao also kisses her, and both of them enter into a relationship. After this, both hold each other's hands and come to Shilan's apartment. Then Shilan gives him a goodbye kiss. Next day, Zhao comes to pick up Shilan. She tells him to keep their relationship a secret. Zhao agrees, but they have a secret romance in the office, and they go out for lunch where a man takes a picture of them both. He was the director's spy. A few days later, they both go to the village where other doctors also come with them. Reaching the village, Shilan kisses Zhao's cheek, leaving a lipstick mark. She starts to wipe it off. Just then, the director and Jason see them like that, and seeing them both so lovingly, they are shocked. They understand that now they are in a relationship. They both give them best wishes. Then both of them spend a very good time in the village, and over time their bonding starts to get better. Then they return to the city and spend a very good time together. After this, Shilan's last day as an assistant arrives. She becomes a little sad because now she won't be able to spend much time with Zhao. But Zhao is happy about her going to her department because now she will be able to do her favorite work. Therefore, Shilan happily goes to her department. But there, a lot of gossip starts about their relationship. So she thinks of telling everyone about their relationship and messages Zhao to pick her up. He comes to pick her up. So she tells everyone about their relationship. They are very happy with this. Next day, Shilan was working overtime in the office when Zhao puts the necklace he had her select around her neck. After that, he proposes marriage to her. Then she asks him to wait a little. I have to buy my own house. Zhao becomes a little upset, but Shilan convinces him. He says, I will be with you every step of the way. Afterwards, Zhao and Shilan's relationship is falsely posted online, specifically mentioning Shilan. She trapped Zhao for money. And this was all done by the director to remove Zhao from the way and become president herself. Now, Shilan receives many negative comments, which makes her sad. So Zhao takes her phone and tells her to relax. I will handle everything. Now her department colleagues also support Shilan, and Zhao also tells her to stay away from social media negativity. After that, to handle the situation, Zhao's dad asks Zhao to go on a foreign tour for a few days and says, I will handle the situation here. Meanwhile, Shilan's mom also finds out about these things, so she calls her and asks. Shilan reassures her, everything will be alright after a while. Now Zhao comes to her and tells her about going abroad, which makes Shilan very sad. Next day, Zhao is about to go abroad, so Shilan helps him pack. After he leaves, Zhao's dad calls Shilan to meet him and says, the director did all this. After this, he tells Shilan the further plan and forbids her from telling Zhao. If he finds out, he will get disturbed there. According to the plan, Shilan has to act like she has broken up with Zhao, so they will send him to the village. After that, it happens as planned, and she comes to the village. And then Zhao's dad exposes the director and gets her removed from the hospital. Now she doesn't tell Zhao anything. They keep talking on video call. Now, after a month, when Zhao returns, his assistant tells him everything and also about Shilan going to the village. So he gets a little upset because no one told him about this. Therefore, he pretends to be angry with Shilan and doesn't talk to her, which makes Shilan a little worried, and she starts to appease Zhao. He says, I was just teasing you. Now, to appease him, Shilan sends him a bouquet and a note. In the note, she also says, sorry. Now Zhao wasn't feeling good without Shilan, so the next day he goes to the village and sends a selfie taken in front of a lake to Shilan. Seeing this, Shilan is very happy and goes to the lake after getting ready. And as soon as she goes, she hugs Zhao, and they both kiss. Then they talk a lot and roam around the village. Then in the evening, Zhao proposes to Shilan with a ring and says, now I can't live without you, and as far as buying your house is concerned, we will do it together. Now I'm not even the president, so I have to start everything from scratch. Now Shilan also agrees and sends a photo to her mom, and then the series ends.